they look at him as if John came from another age, that he lived by a different code, an ancient, antiquated code where honor, courage, character, integrity, duty, where it mattered, because that was obvious how John lived his life. But the truth is, John's code was ageless, is ageless.
Welcome back to Hardball. That, of course, former Vice President Joe Biden. He was speaking this morning about the life, legacy, and character of Senator John McCain during a memorial service in McCain's home state of Arizona. McCain was said to be heavily involved in the preparations for his own memorial plans, including the people who will take part in the services, from former Presidents Barack Obama and George W. Bush to an NFL wide receiver, even a Russian dissident. According to the New York Times, McCain had carefully stage managed a 4-day celebration of his life, but what was also an unmistakable rebuke to President Trump and his agenda. Let's bring in tonight's roundtable. Tara Dowdell is a Democratic strategist. Noah Rothman is an associate editor at Commentary Magazine. Caitlin Huey-Burns is a political reporter for Real Clear Politics. And Heidi Presbella, a national political correspondent for NBC News. Tara, I'll start with you. I think back to Ronald Reagan's funeral in 2004. And Ronald Reagan, as a president, the stagecraft of his presidency was a major staple of it. And there was a lot of thought and a lot of preparation into that funeral and that memorial in terms of what Reagan's long-term legacy would be. What strikes me about all of the planning we're hearing about here with McCain is, yes, it's about the legacy in some way, but it's so much about the current moment as well.
Well, I don't know fully what John McCain was thinking, but I'll say this. I think it is absolutely stunning that he did not want Donald Trump, the sitting president of the United States, who is a member of his own party, who people forget, even though there were times when he rebuked him publicly, overwhelmingly he voted for a lot of the measures and policies and laws that Trump backed. So the fact that he opted to not have him participate in any way, shape, or form, and to have the predecessor, his predecessor, who we know Trump sees as the enemy in many ways, and sees as a person he's trying to remake his own, remake Obama's legacy or take away Obama's legacy. The fact that he chose him and chose not to have Trump is, I think, stunning, and I think it really speaks to the moment we're in.
It is, like, to put yourself back in 2009 and 2010 when McCain had been defeated by Obama. I remember there was that health care summit at the White House. I think it was early 2010. McCain came in, and the tension between them was palpable in the room that day. And I think that was the day that Obama looked over at McCain with the cameras rolling and said, "John, I won the election." And to flash forward 8 years later, a Republican is president now, and it's Obama who will be speaking at McCain's request and the Republican president who won't be there.
Yeah, I forget exactly what McCain said in that moment, but it was something like, I'm reminded of that every day.
Yes.
Right, that's right.
Yeah,
Good comeback.
and I'm not sure whether or not this event it's obvious this has something to do with Donald Trump. It's obvious this has something to do with the moment, but I don't think it's about Barack Obama the man or George W. Bush the man or Joe Biden the man, for that matter. It is about tone and a sort of cosmic sense of what being an American is. I don't think it's about anybody's legacy in particular, or else it would be a different event. It's very much trying to set the stage for what John McCain wanted this country to be, which is a country that's very fractious every 4 years and then forgets it and moves on and moves past it and it is in America, a united American nation. And that was the tone I think that was set today. Hopefully it's maintained over the course of the next couple of days. It's incumbent on the president, I think, the sitting president, to look past this. And so far he has. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, do you think, Caitlin, it's the interest that this has generated? We had John Kasich on this show the other night, and he was saying he was glad, but he was also surprised by the level of interest in this. I mean, do you think that's, again, we could debate the role that Trump himself plays in terms of the planning of this, but in terms of the interest, how much is driven by Trump?
I think the interest is that it is such a contrast to the times we have now. I mean, here you have McCain had planned this ceremony, this funeral, wanting to have the two people who denied him the presidency twice speak and honor him, I think is so different from the politics of this moment. And so I think that's certainly the message that's being put forward. I mean, whether this lasts, we haven't seen anything really last in politics in terms of kumbaya moments. But this, I think, you're seeing, a lot of lawmakers wanting this to be more of of the style of politics than we're seeing now. But it is pretty remarkable, just that contrast that McCain is setting up here.
And Heidi, you're down there in Washington. That plane carrying John McCain's casket is on its way to Washington. There will be a memorial service on Saturday. I think tomorrow his body will lie in state. There'll be a service there, too, as I understand it. What's the reaction? The old sort of bipartisan Washington establishment, some of those folks are still there. I guess it's very different times right now. But how are they going to receive these events over the next 2 days?
Well, I think it's going to be a repeat of what we saw in Arizona today, which is that McCain, yes, he very carefully stage managed all of this to make sure that this was not about politics, that this was about John McCain doing from the grave what he believes the current president has been unable to do, which is to remind Americans of what has always made us great, which is our diversity, which is our ability to be civil and to put aside our political differences and be decent and have character, which is the words that you really heard Joe Biden use a lot, as well as the other speakers. If you saw the speakers who were chosen, the people who are going to be his pallbearers, they come from all different walks of life. They are of all different ethnicities. You had an NFL African-American legend there. You're going to have a pallbearer who is a Russian dissident who's survived several poisonings by Putin. He really put a lot of thought into the message there of uniting Americans, but also a strong message as well and a counterpoint to President Trump by having folks like that Russian dissident pallbearer.
And among those who paid tribute this morning at that memorial service out there in Phoenix was the wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald.
He didn't judge individuals based on the color of their skin, their gender, their backgrounds, their political affiliations, or their bank accounts. He evaluated them on the merits of their character and the contents of their hearts. While some might find our friendship out of the ordinary, it was a perfect example of what made him an iconic figure of American politics and service to fellow man. He celebrated differences. He embraced humanity, championed what was true and just, and saw people for who they were.
Again, that was Larry Fitzgerald at that memorial service today in Phoenix. The McCain plane is on its way to Washington, D.C. right now, expecting it to land any minute.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.